The Portuguese came to Angola with guns, with ship, with an army. They came to take slaves, they came to colonize, they came to conquer. They thought it would be easy. After all, it's just another African territory. But they met the brave African Queen Nzinga, and for 40 years she fought them. 40 years she outsmarted them, she defended her people, and she made alliances against the Portuguese. When the Portuguese had had enough, they decided to sign a treaty with her to negotiate with this brave woman who refused to bow. I'm Konedu, your favorite African grill, and today we are talking about the brave African Queen Nzinga. I love her so much, so let's get into it. So who was Nzinga? Queen Nzinga Mbande was born around 1538 in the Kingdom of Ndongo in what is now Angola. So her father was Angola Kiwanji, the king, and Angola means the king or the ruler, and that word is where the name Angola comes from. According to tradition, Nzinga was born with her umbilical cord twisted around her neck, so her mother had a very difficult birth. And the people of her time believed that if a royal child comes into the world with such a struggle, then she possesses the spiritual gift. She possesses all the quality to become a very great leader. And we all know how great and powerful Nzinga became, so probably it's true. Her father saw something special in her, so he gave her military training, educated her, he let her sit by his side in the court. He even sent her to some Portuguese missionaries so that she can learn the Portuguese language, how to read and write it. And also, it was very unusual for a princess at the time to receive all those treatments, but she did. And it was like her father was preparing her for the leadership role that would someday fall upon her. But trouble was coming because the Portuguese had arrived in 1575 and they had built a trading post in Luanda. At first they just wanted to trade, but after a while the trade turned into slave raiding, then from slave raiding to war. And by the time Nzinga was growing up, her kingdom was under attack, was under very great influence from the Portuguese. So her father died around 1617, and then Nzinga's brother, Angola Mbande, he took over the throne. But Mbande was terrified of the Portuguese, terrified of anyone whom he saw as a rival to his throne. It is said that he killed a lot of people, especially the male relative whom he deemed were eyeing his throne. Some sources even say that Mbande killed Nzinga's infant son, but the truth is really lost to history. I don't really know. Another thing was Mbande was a very weak military leader. He was losing a lot of wars to the Portuguese. He was losing his people. The people were being taken as slaves. He was losing a lot of trade deals. A lot of things were not going on. So in 1622, Mbande was very, very desperate. So he sent the one person that he knew could face the Portuguese, and that was Nzinga. So Nzinga had to go to the Portuguese, the governor's chamber, and interestingly, when she got there, something very unique happened. So she went there for peace negotiation, and when she got into the room for the meeting, the whole place was set up to humiliate her. The Portuguese governor was sitting on a very high stool, a high throne, if I should say, and they gave Nzinga a mat for her to sit on. So Nzinga saw what was happening, and then she also signaled one of her attendants, one of her servants, to get on her knees and on her hands, and then she sat on her back like a chair and began the negotiation with the governor. She basically told the governor, I am going to speak to you as your equal. But you know what? At this point, I felt really bad for the servants, because imagine if the meeting took like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, or even more. She was on her knees and hands, or whether it was a he, for all that period. I can't imagine that. But the most important thing is everyone in the room got the message that Nzinga was trying to get across. You have to deal with me as an equal. So she negotiated, not as someone who was begging for mercy, but she negotiated as an equal power, making demands. And by the end of the meeting, she was able to secure a peace treaty between her kingdom and between Portuguese, her kingdom and the Portuguese. It is said that Nzinga also took on a Christian name, which is Ana de Souza, after the wife of the governor who later became her godmother. So she walked out of this place as a victor. She didn't have to fight any battle, just using her wit, she was able to outsmart the Portuguese. But she also knew that this treaty was not going to last because the Portuguese, they enact power instead of treaties. Okay, if you're loving the story, I need you to leave a like button. I need you to like this video for me, subscribe to this channel, click the like button, share, and guess what? I've got 51 more videos coming your way, and it just helps this channel grow. So, you know. All right, so back to our story. Queen Nzinga soon becomes a king. So in 1624, Nzinga's brother passed away. Some people say he committed suicide due to all the pressure that was coming from the Portuguese. Other sources say that Nzinga killed him just so she can take the throne for herself. But again, the truth is really lost to history. We don't really know what happened back then. But what we do know for sure is that Nzinga became a queen. She took the title of Angola, which is traditionally reserved for male rulers. And the Portuguese were very furious when they heard this. They refused to recognize her, especially as an Angola, because they said that a woman couldn't possibly become a monarch over the kingdom. So they broke the peace treaty between their two countries and declared war against Queen Nzinga in 1626. And that was a big mistake, trust me. So within 2 years, they pushed Nzinga out of Ndongo. They pushed her out of her kingdom. But this woman, she never gives up. She will lose, but she will just keep fighting. She allied with the forces in the highlands, the fierce warriors over there. And then she also conquered the neighboring kingdom, which is in Matamba, in the early 1630s. And then she started ruling over there. She made it her new base of power. And then she came back as the Portuguese so hard that they felt the weight of her comeback. One thing you need to understand about this queen we are talking about is that she didn't just sit on her throne and, you know, act as a queen and command from her throne. This woman led her troops into battle. She would be on the front lines, fighting, charging, leading them. So her people really respected her. And she realized that they couldn't fight the Portuguese head on because they had gunpowder, they had guns, they had this firepower which they didn't have. So she used guerrilla warfare, she used attack and run, she ambushed them, she used different strategies, she wowed them. She knew she couldn't fight head on, so she fought very smartly. She also got alliances for herself because in 1641 she allied with the Dutch to fight against the Portuguese. She kept fighting even though she lost along the way, and then she made her kingdom, the Matamba, she made it a place where those who had escaped from the Portuguese could come. So it was a refuge for them. She also made sure that all the slaves, they had a place to come back to, and this really weakened the Portuguese economically and also military wise. They were completely weakened, and she turned Matamba into a powerhouse. And for 40 whole years, she made Portugal's life in Angola a living hell. So in 1656, Nzinga was in her 70s. She was tired. The war had gone on for way too long, but she was undefeated. The Portuguese had also felt, you know, the stress of this war because the war, like I said, many decades. So the Portuguese did something this swore they would never do. They negotiated with Nzinga on her own terms. So in 1659, they signed a peace treaty and they recognized her as a legitimate queen of Matamba. And they also stopped the slave raids in her territory that they had been doing and returned most of the prisoners as well. She ruled peacefully until 1663, somewhere between 81, 80. Sources vary when it comes to the exact age that she died. But she died on her terms. She died undefeated. She died as a very proud queen. What do we learn from Nzinga, this powerful king? First, never accept a position that someone just, tries to put on you because they don't respect you. When she went to sign the peace treaty, they gave her a mat, but she made her own chair. When they refused to acknowledge her as queen, she fought again until they recognized her as a legitimate ruler. Also, adapt. You see, Nzinga studied the Portuguese, she studied their tactics, and she devised different plans in order to fight them, in order to combat them. She adapted to the situation that she was faced with, and that is why she became so powerful and was able to fight her enemies head on. And leadership also requires sacrifice, because if you really read into details about this queen, you realize that she lost some of her family members. She lost territory, she faced exile, she was a queen, she was abandoned, but she never stopped fighting. She never gave up. And don't be afraid of losing, because Nzinga was a real loser. She lost battles, she had to retreat, she had to regroup, she had to reheal herself, she had to make a comeback. She taught and taught and taught. And the good thing about her is that she never surrendered. You know, sometimes the journey of life can get so difficult, so we can learn from her, and then her strong spirit, which she never surrenders even if it gets hard. So let's do that as well. Queen Nzinga, her history has endured for so many generations. Her face is on the money of the Angolan people. Statues have been built in Luanda. People honor her. We are talking about her today, sharing her story, because she refused to be conquered. She refused to bow. All right, that's all I have for you all today. Bye guys, I'll see you all soon.